Dequavis lost the duel, and after rewatching the trilogy, it became pretty clear why. Subscribe! We're about to go through the entire Duel trilogy, and I don't want to waste your time, so buckle up and let's get going. If you have any questions or analysis on the Duel, put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. First off came Axe PvP, which heavily favored Dream in the entire Duel. You want to know why? Now, I don't know about how the Duel order was set, but it does play a factor in the outcome, so we need to talk about it. I'm sure the majority of you have played in some sort of Minecraft Duel, or any Duel for that matter. Anything that's best of 3. If you have, you know that the best thing that can happen is to win round 1. If you win round 1, you are so much more calm the remaining rounds, because you know you're not just struggling to survive, but rather you're playing with a confidence knowing that you can recover if you happen to make a mistake. This becomes extremely important because the biggest thing that disappears when you take an early lead is second guessing yourself, which in any high-paced duel like this one is something you don't want to be doing. At this point, both Dream and Dequavis have extremely well-developed muscle memory for Minecraft combat, and second guessing yourself will trick your mind into telling your muscle memory that it's wrong. So what's the point of this? Dream is better at Axe PvP. Before going into the round at all, it was very clear to everyone, if you watched both Dequavis' and Dream's manhunts, that this was the case. This isn't a knock on Dequavis at all though. He could win 10 out of 10 duels any day of the week against anyone that isn't Dream. In the same way that Steph Curry is a better 3-point shooter than LeBron James, but that doesn't mean that Steph is a better overall player. You get it? I had to sneak in a sports reference. I haven't done that in a minute actually. Basketball, yeah! Let's break down the specifics of the fight. In round 1, Dequavis became far too aggressive after Dream made a mistake. Dequavis did actually have the upper hand in that round, but it looked like he became too desperate to capitalize on his advantage, leading to more sloppy play. A lot of the things that totaled up to cause Dequavis to lose were combinations of small mistakes adding up. For Dream, he held his composure very well, only exposing himself to Dequavis when he was fully loaded to make an attack, meaning that his axe or crossbow were fully charged. He was primed to get the most hits or damage every time that he faced Dequavis, instead of just trying to sneak in a hit here and there out of desperation. But building off of that, Dream still took advantage of every opportunity that he had to inflict damage on Dequavis. I should clarify that when I said that Dream attacks only when fully loaded, that's specifically in regards to either facing up with Dequavis once they've both recovered, or not trying to chase Dequavis when realistically there's no chance that he would catch him or get any more hits on him. But when Dequavis is right in front of him, Dream will get in a hit regardless of if his axe is fully charged or not. And there are 2 reasons that this works for Dream. The first is because of a mistake by Dequavis. Dequavis, when trying to crit Dream, often jumps too close to where Dream is at, meaning that he is so close that Dream has the ability to get in 2 hits before Dequavis can retreat. Dream will also stay on the ground, not jumping when Dequavis jumps to get a crit, ensuring that Dream has the highest possibility of getting in multiple hits. In short, Dequavis is able to disable Dream's shield, but the trade-off is that he gets hit twice, and that's no bueno. The second reason is because it appears that Dequavis has predetermined his combination without reacting or adapting to the situation that he's in. His thought seems to be jump forward, swing, bow, retreat. On its own, that's actually not a horrible strategy, but when playing the best of the best, it's a combination that many are familiar with and candidly are expecting. But there are 2 more points that stuck out when it came to the Axe duel. The first is a combination of what we talked about already. In short, Dequavis seems too focused on getting crits and not simply taking the opportunities that Dream has left open. He is consistently moving too close to Dream, allowing Dream to get in the extra hits. Yes, we're beating this point into the ground, but it just kept happening without any adjustment. Secondly is that Dream is just better in this area. The move that I think shows this best is how Dream will not move forward when inflicting a combo, but he actually moves backwards, not allowing Dequavis to get off any free hits. This works extremely well because after Dream gets a hit, it knocks Dequavis back, but then Dream backs up on his own, which keeps Dequavis out of reach. Dequavis then swings, trying to approach Dream because he thinks he has an advantage, but he misses his swing. Dream then hits him with a crossbow, creating more space between him. Then Dequavis is either forced to retreat, or Dream has created enough space for himself that Dream can retreat and reload without any risk of being damaged. This was a round that I was expecting Dequavis to wipe the floor with, and he did extremely well. Again, if you've watched both Dream's and Dequavis' manhunts, you can get a feel for where each person may have an advantage over the other, and this area was heavily favoring Dequavis in my opinion. In fact, Dream actually admits that he doesn't know what he's doing.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Come down here. We'll have a good time.
Dream is consistently making mistakes, the most drastic of them all being that he would, for some reason, back himself into a corner. Literally. This would give Dequavis a huge advantage and Dequavis would win the round. But this is a video about how Dequavis lost, and in these rounds, there are actually more than just a few indicators that begin to show why he ultimately couldn't win the duel. The biggest that I noticed is that Dequavis plays the kit, not the opponent. Now, it's a pretty well-known saying in the sports world that you play the game, not the occasion, which is true, but you also have to prepare specifically for your opponent, and it genuinely didn't seem like Dequavis did that. It looked like he was extremely proficient in using the tools that he was given, but he couldn't adapt his strategy to beat Dream specifically. You see, the antithesis of this is how Dream adapts throughout the duel. Dream figures out what weapons and tools he can use well, and he sticks to becoming deadly with those. In fact, as you watch the later rounds in this set of duels, you notice that Dream takes the most damage and loses when he abandons the skills he's developed earlier in the rounds and tries to use items that he's less familiar with. Dream lost round 4 when he was trying to get fancy and use end crystals. He lost round 5 when he backed himself into a corner, but he won round 6 when he stuck to what he knew, to get the high ground and use the mace. He may not be proficient in every part of the kit, but he was very proficient in one, and when he stuck to that, it did well. Dream won round 8, but this wasn't because Dream was better at this round, it's because Dequavis lost focus. He trapped Dream underground, but once Dream escaped, the rest of the round was in favor of Dream. Dequavis had lost all momentum that he gained from trapping Dream, lost focus, and got routed by Dream. In round 8, Dequavis lost from fall damage. And this is the point that I was talking about earlier that I believe ultimately lost Dequavis the duel. Not that he died specifically from this round, but in a $100,000 duel against someone who is arguably the best Minecraft player online, there is no room for mistakes. Dying or losing any round to something that is your own fault, that is a relatively simple mistake, it just can't happen. However, Dequavis does follow this up by what is the best round he had out of all of them. It is the first time that I see him actually adapt to a situation that he's in, learning what works for him, but more importantly, realizing Dream's weakness and exploiting that. He lures Dream into a corner and, just like every single time before, takes the upper hand and win, ultimately winning him the modern PvP round. Right out of the gate, Dequavis comes strong. He's very aggressive, putting the pressure on Dream. Dequavis ultimately wins this round, but I believe that it was due to Dream becoming too cocky and ultimately losing because of it. But again, the results speak for themselves, and a win is a win. In round 2, you can see that Dequavis never watched the duel between Dream and Techno because he takes the high ground right away. Then he misses his hit when he jumps towards Dream, allowing Dream to get in a crit and put Dequavis at a disadvantage for the remainder of the round. In round 3, Dequavis again stays on the high ground in the beginning, but has a great comeback when he's able to land some combos on Dream. One other thing that I did notice in this round is that Dequavis tends to eat his Gapple first. Now, it's something he does in almost every round, and it opens up the opportunity for him to be out of Gapples if the battle happens to last longer, which you'll see later actually becomes pretty important. In round 4, Dequavis once again gets in some strong combos, but he doesn't take advantage of the lead that he has on Dream. Now, I do feel like I should mention there are times to chase and times to run throughout these duels, but specifically in sword PvP, where there are no shields, it's no axes, so one single crit does less damage. If you're able to get in more hits early, you have an advantage, and it is generally much more advantageous to chase and not let your opponent heal. In round 5, Dequavis got boxed in a corner, which I wouldn't call a rookie mistake or anything. It's just a general gameplay mistake that could happen to anyone, good or bad, but it lost him the round. In round 6, Dequavis is a lot better, finally getting an advantage on Dream when Dream jumps too close to him. It finally flips the script on the usual mistakes that Dequavis would make, but once again, he eats his Gapples early, giving him a disadvantage later in the match when it comes to healing. He still finishes the round well though by not backing away and also not being overly desperate or aggressive by jumping close to Dream. Solid round actually. No bad notes for round 8, Dream just got a fantastic combo on Dequavis. Round 9, Dream is actually the one who eats the Gapple first, but Dequavis then makes the mistake of waiting too long to start eating the apple after seeing Dream eat his. This then allows Dream to approach and begin a combo on Dequavis. So despite Dequavis not eating his Gapple first, he quickly became disadvantaged because of the poor timing of him trying to eat it. And in the final combo, Dequavis makes the same mistake he's made in so many rounds, jumping too close to Dream, which means Dream isn't pushed out of reach of the hit, allowing Dream to begin a combo that Dequavis was too close to Dream to back out of, and thus ends the duel. Let's break down the skills challenge. The first event was the Elytra race, and it was pretty dead even. The only quick notes that I had were that Dream did seem to take a more optimal race line during the race, meaning that at peak performance he was technically faster, but he made more mistakes that slowed him down. And it doesn't matter how fast you can be if the mistakes you're making are erasing your progress, so pretty even round. This is where I began to have some speculation about Dequavis, and it started in this round. And my speculation is that Dequavis didn't spend a whole lot of time practicing before the race, or practicing before the duel in general, specifically when it comes to any non-PvP round. The reason that I say that is actually solely because of the third round where, he got walloped. Obviously, this is a round that is going to stand out, but when it comes to practice, the more you practice, it's not just the better that you get, but the longer that you will be able to perform at a high level consistently. Right now, I, as Phil with Super, can run a 5K, but the back half of that race is going to be drastically slower than the first half. That doesn't mean that I can't run at a good pace for a portion. It just means that the longer that I go, the harder it will be for me to continue to perform at that same level. And this is what I'm seeing from Dequavis in this round. He starts off exceptionally well, but the longer you go, the more the chinks in the armor are showing. So a solid start, but it's not a good finish at all. This round was probably the weirdest out of all of them. When watching Dequavis in comparison to Dream, I would think that Dequavis would have the upper hand when it comes to parkour, and I saw this through the manhunts. But this just wasn't the case. I think now that it's fairly safe to assume two things. The first is that Dequavis didn't really practice at all. I had speculation at the lava boat race, but I think this kind of compounds on that. And the second is that he didn't have access to the map to begin with. I don't know this, but his performance would indicate that he came in blind. So maybe Dream had an unfair advantage being able to practice the map when Dequavis couldn't, but I just don't know. Genuinely, this round was baffling to me. Yes, Dream performed exceptionally well, but how poorly Dequavis ran the course was more notable than Dream's good performance. It was just weird. Boat racing. What on earth was Dream doing in this? Dream obviously never practiced a single boat run at all. You can't talk about Dequavis not practicing to then say that Dream was practicing this round as well. Personally, this just was the most frustrating round to watch. Our server that I play on, we love ice boat racing. We got tracks everywhere, all over our server. And this is what I gotta watch? Goodness gracious. It wasn't even close to competitive. Yeah, I don't know, man. That was just stupid. Easy win for Dequavis, though. He obviously knew what he was doing. Earned this win. This is like Steph Curry battling Kyrie Irving. Both Dream and Dequavis had strong showings in this round, and I actually think overall there wasn't a clear advantage from one person to the other. The only time Dequavis pretty much blew it was when he missed the slime block jump from the TNT. Specifically, it was weird because he was aiming to land in a 2x2 area, and considering the talent level, that's like pretty large. One other thing to note is how throughout battles like these, it's something that we mentioned at the duel, but both Dream and Dequavis have different strengths, obviously. But when they stick to their strengths, they perform better. I mean, who would have thought? Well, they didn't think for a lot of their shot attempts. And this is where the Steph versus Kyrie comparison comes in. Like, I actually wasn't being ironic about that. Steph can make a shot from literally anywhere on the court, and Kyrie can make a layup when having to twist his body in the most ridiculous ways possible. Pause. Dream is Steph, Dequavis is Kyrie. Dream's strength is long-range shots. At a distance, his accuracy is much greater than Dequavis's. Foreshadowing. And Dequavis's strength is in his TikTok stage shots. His bridging to a 360 target shot is something that's right up his alley and significantly better than Dream's. And how did this ultimately play out? Dream won the round. And why? Because he stuck to what he was good at. He won the letters off long-range shots. Stick to what you're good at. It seems to be a recurring theme here, but it makes perfect sense. Why would you try to experiment with something you're not 100% comfortable at right in the middle of a $100,000 duel? Instead, stick with something that you're confident in, because this will also force the pressure to be on your opponent instead of yourself. Dequavis clapped. The ironic part about this, though, is that Dequavis compared parkour to building when he was getting the clapperoni and cheese from Dream.
There. It's all that counts.
Parkour is like equivalent to building in Minecraft.
No, it's not. Oh, come on.
He's gonna go build a house.
But in this round, when it was actual building, Dequavis won easily. I don't have any good insights for this round as a whole, though. I'm not a fast builder or a good builder. I can't analyze buildings well because I feel like it's all preference. But yeah, I don't even know how you practice speed building. Good for those guys. How on earth did Dequavis miss the 2x2 slime block jump if he could hit every single water drop? That's just ridiculous. Dequavis dominated in this race as he did with the build battle and the boat race, and it highlighted something that I think sums up the entire duel in a nutshell. With the exception of the Elytra race, Dream's skills, his absolute strengths, are isolated to manhunt related challenges. Hand-to-hand combat, bow shooting, lava boat racing, parkour, water drop, they're all skills that can be directly used in manhunts. Where did Dream lose? Ice boat, building, trident race, events that you won't see in a manhunt at all, but you'd see them in MCC or whatever it's called now. I don't know, I'm old, get over it. For being honest with each other, I don't think that many viewers cared about events such as building or ice boat racing. It's no knock on either one or playing either person's side. As a fan myself, I thought it was cool they included them, but I just didn't care that much. And it was interesting trying to figure out how the events were actually chosen. Not the main ones, because it makes sense why there are so many events based around Manhunt skills and PvP, because it's a duel between the two people that we can pretty confidently say are two of the best Manhunt players on the planet. It's not a knock on the competition at all, because, you know, it is what it is. The parameters are set, and I'm sure both players had a heads up as to what the events were, meaning that it was their own responsibilities to practice and perform. But from a viewer perspective, it did feel odd. Like, it didn't feel like it was set up perfectly. What is the purpose of choosing speed building and ice boat racing? I don't understand why those two were chosen specifically. Anyway, I could tangent on like the choices of the events forever, but I don't want to do that. Speed bridging. This round had a lot of controversy, with some people saying that Dequavis won outright and some saying that Dream was cheated because Dequavis just used his bridge. Some saying Dequavis was cheating because how a block was placed at the beginning, saying he might have been using an auto bridging mechanism. But the crux of it all is that we won't know, because without being able to see both of them speed bridge side by side without interacting with one another or one another's bridges at all, it's literally impossible to name a winner. This round was just disappointing. Dequavis starts by knocking Dream off, then Dream uses Dequavis' bridge, Dequavis uses Dream bridge, and it's just stupid. Seriously, who thought this setup would actually work? Do you think that the players would just have honor and play fair, just relying on their speed bridging skills to win? This is Minecraft. It's a game of cheaters. Everybody knows this. No one's gonna play fair. Who here likes marbles? I do. And the Manhunt? Well, that was for all the marbles. Quick pause for a second. Brother, if you've watched this far and you haven't subscribed, please do. I think you like this type of content. I was going to cut this video up into thirds, but let's be real. Those of you who actually care about the duel and some analysis are going to watch the whole thing no matter how long it is. It's not in an exploitative way or anything like that. You guys just want the best analysis, and that's what I'm trying to provide for you. I know it's not perfect, but thank you for sticking around. And now for the last round, the one we're most interested in, the Manhunt. Question of the century. Why is Dream the speedrunner and why is Dequavis the hunter? Was there a coin flip, a conversation, or what? My bet is that since it was going to be posted on Dream's channel, Dream defaulted to be the runner, but that's my 2 cents of speculation. As to how much it played a difference in the outcome, I don't know, because I'm not super familiar with either person as a hunter. Let me know what you think though. Dequavis got knocked into a ravine though. That was funny. When it comes to a manhunt, there is a delicate balance of being cautious and being aggressive. From the get-go, counting being knocked into the ravine, it seemed like Dequavis was far more on the aggressive side than being cautious. This isn't inherently bad, because the strategy behind being aggressive is that you really just need to get in a couple lucky hits one time, and that will win you the round. The flip side though is the one that we will be mentioning more than once during the hunt. Now I do want to quickly note that before the manhunt even began, it was pretty easy to assume that this would be Dequavis' strategy as a hunter. Watching the other duels, we are consistently pointing out how Dequavis' mistakes, especially when it came to combat, were a result of being overly aggressive and putting himself in a place of disadvantage. The pattern of that behavior holds true through the hunts as well. I don't know if Dream knew or expected this, but it's something to know. The first real notable part of the hunt was the bed trap over lava. This was a smart trap. Yes, Dream was dumb to fall for it, and yes, had Dream broken the blocks leading up to it, he would have not just neutralized the trap, but actually turned it against Dequavis, because that meant if Dequavis died, he would have been trapped in the middle of a lava pool until he broke the bed and would have had to die a second time. But instead, Dream just went for the bed. Now, Dequavis got extremely unlucky with this trap, because had it been day when Dream sprung the trap, it would have been over. Unfortunately, it was night, and Dream kept his composure, escaping and buying time to get what is the most effective tool in all of Manhunt, a diamond pickaxe, and I stand by this wholeheartedly. Here's why. You should never use 3 diamonds on anything other than a pickaxe. A stone axe does the same damage as a diamond axe, with the only difference being reload speed, which is pretty negligible in a manhunt, because more often than not, you are going to get in 1, maybe 2 hits before you retreat, thus negating the advantage of a quicker reload time. However, the amount of times that a runner finds themselves mining through a wall to escape is frequent, meaning that if you have a 33.3% faster mine rate on blocks that can be mined with full efficiency, with the number of blocks that are mined throughout the duration of the manhunt, that disparity becomes very very impactful. Dequavis got caught in obsidian. That was funny. Dream also should have killed him and destroyed all of his stuff, but that was his choice. It is important to point out that Dequavis doesn't have the experience that many of the other hunters have. The hunters in Dream's Manhunt specifically have become more and more cautious of traps that are potentially being set, and that only comes from experience. Dequavis simply doesn't have that. So although it's funny that he got caught in a trap, it's hard to actually count that too much against him, because from his perspective, it looks like Dream is just running away down a tunnel he was mining, and the block missing on the ground could have easily been an ore that Dream had mined for all he knew. Funny? Yes. Embarrassing? Yes. A knock against Dequavis? Yes, but it's really not as much as it seems. Dequavis does have a nice play later in the hunt, though, when he deploys a pufferfish on Dream, which is smart not just because of the damage, but because it will physically slow down Dream from moving anywhere, making it harder for him to escape. But then, not too long after, came the moment when it became clear why Dequavis lost. They're swimming down, Dream sees the stronghold, turns around, and kills Dequavis. It's not the stronghold being exposed as to why Dequavis lost, but look at what he had in his inventory at the time that he died. Dude had like 2 Scooby snacks and that's it. Yeah, Dequavis does have really bad luck by Dream stumbling across the stronghold and getting into the nether while Dequavis has to get gear. However, this could have been avoided if Dequavis either had more gear or was better prepared. This may seem like a poor point because you died regardless, but Dream couldn't destroy any of his stuff because it was in the water, and Dequavis had his spawn nearby. So he would have been able to get a lot of his stuff and reset, which would have put more pressure on Dream, not allowing him to get to the bastion with the ease that he did, meaning that Dream most likely wouldn't have been able to get all the arrows from the chest and the trades because he wouldn't have had the time to do so. Poor prep in the mid game caused Dequavis' entire demise in the late game. Dequavis still had opportunities to win, but the avenue by which Dream won was paved by the lack of preparation. You can see this evident when Dequavis is being chased by Dream through the lava. Despite having time to regroup and catch Dream, Dequavis doesn't even have a pickaxe with him when trying to escape. Now maybe he had a stone pickaxe and it broke, but if you know that you're getting anywhere near the endgame, you'd think that you would take a little bit more time, almost submitting the nether to Dream and meeting him well prepared in the end, or spending that time trapping the end portal since nether travel isn't allowed. But the aggressive nature that we've pointed out a million times at this point caused him to chase after Dream despite knowing he has a huge disadvantage. I don't know why this bugs me so much, but man, it's like not having a pickaxe is just crazy. As I said near the beginning of the manhunt, the pickaxe is the most valuable tool there is, bar none. And it doesn't even have that. Also, the lack of preparation from before Dream went to the stronghold bought Dream the time to get the extra fire pot, which allowed him to escape. But despite it all, Dequavis did have a strong showing in the nether, for the situation at least that he was in. He released an enderman that Dream had trapped in the boat, which was genius, and then used a pearl to bed bomb and try and kill Dream, which came close, but it wasn't quite enough. A small thing is that Dream used the low ground to get a hit on Dequavis into the fortress, but Dequavis, instead of using the low ground to his advantage after being knocked down, to maybe getting a hit or two, retreated, even though this would have been a spot where he could have gotten a hit. It's not big, but you know, take what you got when it's in front of you. What about the end battle though? This, of course, is where it all came to a head. 12 duels under wrap, the overworld and the nether confrontation is complete, and it came down to the literal end to decide who got the $100,000. Poetry, or good scripting. We can talk about that in another video. In the end, the TLDR is that Dream had a lot of arrows and Dequavis couldn't hit him, but it's so much more than that. Yes, we know that Dequavis had no way of knowing that Dream was on half heart, but what we do know is that Dequavis couldn't hit him. When I watched it back, I didn't realize how many times Dequavis was literally within reach of hitting Dream and simply missed him. Couldn't click on him a single time. It's genuinely astounding when you realize that Dequavis, being as good of a player as he is, couldn't click on Dream once. But as mentioned before, Dream stuck to his strengths, long distance bow shots. He had established that this was an area of great strength for him, and he didn't try anything fancy for the sake of it. This again is one of the biggest reasons that Dream ultimately won. Dream seemed to have a better grasp on the big picture. Maybe it's because he's done this sort of duel before, but regardless, he understood that it was up to Dequavis to stop him instead of Dream being the one to be aggressive and trying to defeat Dequavis. Dequavis had to get to Dream's level, not the other way around. Dequavis had 2 final shots to try and win. The first came when he finally made it all the way up to where Dream had towered. It was actually pretty spectacular to be able to get a hit that knocked him high enough and then have the dexterity to land a pearl shot on that tiny path that Dream had. It was an amazing shot and an amazing setup, and unfortunately spectacularly bad that he wasn't able to again land a single damaged hit on Dream, but it does knock Dream off. Then came the final move of the entire battle. The dragon is down, Dream is running away, and instead of just chasing on foot, Dequavis uses what he can safely assume is his last pearl to try and cut off Dream. But Dream then spins 180, now having the lead on Dequavis, headed straight for the dragon. Dequavis can't catch up, and the round is over. But was it a bad choice to pearl? I actually don't think so, because we have seen this exact situation before in Manhunt, almost down to the T.
Oh my god.
We gotta kill him right now.
Kill him! I see him, get him!
No! Oh my god, it's so low. It's
Oh my
so
god, it's
low.
literally a one shot. It's a one shot. Kill him, Sam. I'm boosting you.
Don't let him kill it! Kill it! Kill him! Kill it!
Kill him.
Oh my god, come on!
Yes!
No!
Yes! Oh my god. Yes!
What happened?
You cannot say that Dequavis made the right choice by pearling ahead because it ultimately caused him to lose. But you also can't say that it was entirely the wrong move, because Dream was literally one single bow shot away from killing the dragon, and I am almost 100% certain that Dream wasn't out of arrows. Remember that while he was up top, he was just waiting for the dragon to fly off his perch to be able to get hit again. But when Dequavis jumped up to get Dream, Dream actually shot an arrow at him. But then why did Dequavis actually lose? We've gone through everything, from the first duel to the manhunt. There were many mistakes by both players, with Dequavis being the one whose mistakes led to a loss. Let's break down the 3 things that became the deciding factors in the entire duel. The first is something I've been pounding in this entire time. Pause. Dequavis is too aggressive. Again, he plays not like he's fighting Dream, but like he's fighting some random person. He is consistently far too aggressive. From the first rounds of duels, you can see that he is consistently on the attack. In 99% of scenarios, this strategy would actually work perfect for Dequavis. If he's fighting someone where the talent gap is even a small but noticeable size, being consistently aggressive wouldn't allow his opponent to reset and have time to think, but he wasn't fighting someone with a huge talent gap. The second reason is practice. Admittedly, I can't speak on to how much practice Dequavis did, but I can look at the amount that Dream practiced and similarly apply that to Dequavis. And what I could see is that Dream didn't, publicly at least, practice many events other than the hand-to-hand combat. If we applied the same metric to Dequavis, which I think would be accurate based on how Dream performed in some rounds like building, ice boat, which again is hard to suck out if you haven't even practiced for 2 seconds, or at the Trident race, your performance would solely be based on the talent you already possessed. This point is backed up with what I said about Dequavis' performance in the lava boat race. Without practice, your flaws will inherently become apparent the longer you're performing the task at hand. Finally was adaptation, adapting to your own strengths and to your opponent. This is where I believe Dream's greatest strength is when it comes to combat in general. When you watch him compete, whether it's in the manhunts or in the duels, you see him adapt and become a better and better player with each round. There's a reason that Dream was making a comeback in modern PvP, and why Dream hasn't lost a grand finale in a manhunt. And even when you look at the Technoblade duel, Dream was making a comeback in that as well, until he wasn't making a comeback. In this duel, we pointed out how when Dream stuck to his strengths, he performed well, from modern PvP to long-range bow shooting. The point isn't that Dequavis is bad. The point is that this is the single area of talent that has the biggest discrepancy between the two. Both have areas in the mini-games where I wholeheartedly believe they could significantly improve with just a little practice, but it is very hard to learn adaptation on the fly, and ultimately it's why Dream won. Dequavis couldn't adapt to axe or sword PvP, he couldn't adapt his strategy when it came to preparation and manhunt, and most importantly, he couldn't adapt his aggressive nature when it came to facing an opponent on the same level as him. I needed that. That's all I got. Let me know your thoughts, and if you want to see a super in-depth breakdown of some of the first round duels, Axe PvP, Modern PvP, or Sword PvP. And I've actually already done one of these on Dream's Axe PvP from the Technoblade video, so check that video out if you haven't already. It's old, but it's got good information. Or if you want to see why Dream's 50 million viewer drop-off is actually good, you can check out this video here.